An Earl Kemp tribute. Hi, I'm Gary Lovisi, and it's with a sad heart that I bring this tribute about Earl Kemp. But it's well deserved, and it should be put out there. Earl Kemp passed away February 6th. He was 90 or 91 years old. He lived in, I believe, Arizona, or maybe later in his years in Mexico. And he passed away, and the name Earl Kemp may not be known to many people, but he was a force in publishing, a force in science fiction, and a force in First Amendment rights, freedom of the press, sexual freedom, and he was a great man. I knew him a little bit. I met him out on the West Coast at the LA paperback shows years ago. Here's a picture of us. This is Attila Glennis. Ray Torrance is myself, and here's Earl. Earl was a gregarious fellow. He was a raconteur. He had a million stories, and he had a great history. He started out, he was a science fiction fan and reader, and he in 1961 won the Hugo Award for his best science fiction fanzine, Who Killed Science Fiction, which was a compilation of articles about science fiction by various writers. And that won the Hugo Award in 1961. And he also was the publisher out in Chicago of Advent Books, Advent Press, which was a fan press very early in the 50s, publishing some great books. They published a Requiem for Astounding, which I think is one of the greatest books on science fiction magazines ever, and a whole lot of other stuff. And as time went on, Earl worked with William Hamling in the science fiction field. And William Hamling, though, his focus changed from science fiction to more adult fiction. He began publishing Rogue and other men's magazines, and then publishing nightstand books and other early sleaze paperbacks that dealt with sexual situations. And he called in Earl to be his editor. And Earl was the editor from 1959 to 1975, and was the editor of over 4,300 books, which Robert Sperry has chronicled in a massive, detailed, incredible listing, which I'm going to give you the information at the end of this, in the description below on some of the things I'm talking about. Thing about Earl was that he was always open and willing to talk about the things that he did, and was proud of what he did, and he had hard times because in the 60s they were going after the softcore adult publishers, and these were publishers these were the books published by Greenleaf Books and Newsstand and Nightstand, and other publishers which were under the Hamling umbrella and the Greenleaf umbrella, which Earl edited. And Earl actually went to prison for 3 months, and because of that, because he edited these books, the government wanted to get after him. And he's a person who fought for the First Amendment. He's a person who fought for freedom of speech, and he's a person who fought for sexual freedom. And he was a hell of a guy, and he deserves a tribute, that people remember him for his science fiction work, and all the books that he published at Advent in Chicago, and then all the great, what they call now sleaze, which is the adult paperbacks of the 60s and 70s, which are many of them. In the beginning, they were not explicit books, but in the later years they became that. And they had, of course, Robert Bonfils cover art. Robert Bonfils was a great artist who did many of the covers for Greenleaf and other companies that under the Greenleaf umbrella. And he did also the Corneth books. And this is one of the books for the Dr. Death series. And this is a painting, an original painting by Robert Bonfils, but it's a repainting. At the end of his life, Robert Bonfils painted, I believe, 4 or 5, perhaps as many as 6 repaintings of his paperbacks for some of the collectors in the West Coast. One of them was Robert Sperry. I believe Bruce Brenner was another one. And I also asked Bob to paint one for me, which he did. He did this one for Dr. Death, and this is, of course, Earl Kemp being the model, and he used the model on the Dr. Death paperbacks. I believe there's 2 or 4 of them. I'm not sure, but he was the model that Bonfils used. That crazy wild image, and that's kind of Earl Kemp in a way. I mean, he was just a really wild, gregarious individual. One of the books that chronicles a lot of the history of Earl Kemp's work is Cinerama, sleeve sex paperback of the 60s. I just dropped my glasses so I can't see. And that's edited by Brittany A. Daly. And just to go through this book, the thing is that it has a lot of the cover art, and the books, talks about the books. Brittany put this together. She did a terrific job. It's a feast for the eyes. Many rare and great books are shown in here. Great artwork by Bonfils and others, Ward and Stanton, and all of the key artists, Rader at Midwood and everybody. And a lot of the text is in here was contributed by, among many others, was Earl Kemp. One of the other things is that Earl Kemp had a website, www.earlkemp.com, and also Robert Sperry has says the Vintage Greenleaf Classic Books website, which lists all 4,300 of the books that Earl edited for Greenleaf and all the other books under the Greenleaf umbrella. There's also Earl Earl began as a fanzine writer, and he published fanzines when he was young in Chicago, and then around 2001 or 2002, he began doing, I believe with the help of Bob Sperry and others out there on the West Coast, he began doing his own e-zine, or electronic zine, whatever you want to call it. That was that ran for many issues. It ran until 2011, and the PDFs are all up on efanzines.com, which shows all of Earl's later fanzines. And in those fanzines, they're just marvelous. I mean, he talks about all his work, the people that he met and knew, what went on with the court case with the government, early days of science fiction, and all the authors that he worked with. I mean, Algis Budrys and Harlan Ellison and Robert Silverberg and so many others, and Victor Banis, who wrote gay adult sleaze books, and Earl was one of the people who allowed those books to be published because he knew there was a market for them. And Victor Banis is also a person that I knew, and was a wonderful, wonderful gentleman. He's since passed away, but he was a great, great guy, and an early person who wrote gay sleaze, and also non-gay sleaze, but he was a terrific author. Robert Bonfils was the magnificent artist who painted probably, I don't know, maybe 2,000, maybe 3,000, all told, all together, paintings for adult books, and amazing fellow. And Earl Kemp kept the publishing wheels turning by churning out all these books from 1959 to 1975, 4,300 books that are very collectible today. They're very cool. They were on the cutting edge at the time of the evolution of the country and of the social history of the country. And again, Earl was a person who fought for First Amendment rights. He fought for the First Amendment, for freedom of speech, and for sexual freedom. And he was in the forefront of that, and he paid his dues. So he's a really important guy who really needs to be remembered, needs to be studied, and then look at his work and his writings, and they're all on again in his fanzine, efanzines.com. You can find his information, and I just wanted to do this because I found out about Earl's passing just the last couple of days. Didn't know about it, and he's a really good guy. When I did the issue on nightstand books, I believe it was number 57 or something in Paperback Parade 57, probably around 2001 or 2002 when I met him. He was like so nice to me when he was so happy to see that issue, and we kind of got along really good. And of course, because I'm on the East Coast and he's on the West Coast, and we didn't really have too much of a relationship, but I did know him and I did like him a lot, and I did respect a lot of what he'd done, because he's a person, again, this is a tribute to him, and I want him to be remembered for not only the important person he was in the publishing field and in a lot of areas, but also the good guy that he was, because he had a great smile, he had a great way of just a joy about him, and he was a happy kind of a little bit of a rogue, a little bit of a satyr, a little bit of a kind of a bad boy, maybe a little bit in some ways, but very endearing and always charming, and a person who really in his life had a great influence on this country, on publishing, and on a lot of people, and on myself. I mean, I'm a publisher who, I look at Earl Kemp as like as an icon. That boy, if I could just do half, a tenth of what he did, that would be wonderful. And he did it all, and he did it really well with class. And he fought the fight. He fought the fight for what he believed, and in the end, he won. And he was proven correct, proven right, and that's important too. So I just want to say this. I hope you enjoy this kind of sad but very deserved, I think, tribute to Earl Kemp. He passed away again on February 6th. And he's going to be really missed by a lot of people. He was a great guy and an important figure in science fiction and in all forms of publishing in this country, and he should not be forgotten. I want to thank you for looking. I hope you enjoyed my half-assed look. I mean, I'm not an Earl Kemp expert. Other people know more about him than I do. Robert Sperry and other people, and you should look at their websites and their information, which I'll have below here in the description. But I just wanted to say something about him because I think it's important and it's due. And I want to thank you all for looking, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.